For months the eyes of American intelligence were fixed on one man, Nicolas Maduro. This was not a casual glance, it was an intimate, almost obsessive surveillance of his every move. US spies, aided by a highly placed source deep within the Venezuelan government, meticulously documented the minutiae of his existence. They knew which of his heavily fortified residences he would sleep in on any given night, a pattern that shifted with paranoid unpredictability. They cataloged his diet, noting his preference for certain imported delicacies, a stark contrast to the widespread hunger gripping his nation. No detail was too small for the intelligence collectors who tracked his life from the shadows. This relentless observation extended beyond mere logistics. The watchers learned the names and habits of his pets, the specific blend of coffee he drank in the morning, and the brand of cigars he favored in the evening. They knew the color of the suits he wore, and the routes his motorcades took through the increasingly desolate streets of Caracas, using a combination of stealth drones that loitered silently in the skies above, and clandestine CIA officers operating on the ground since August 2025, a complete picture of his pattern of life began to emerge. This was more than just gathering information, it was about understanding the man, his routines, and his vulnerabilities. The National Security Agency, or NSA, played a crucial role, casting a wide net over Venezuela's communications. They monitored foreign signals, listened for the activation of military radar systems, and provided precise geolocation support that could pinpoint key individuals in real time. Meanwhile, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA, worked tirelessly, creating detailed maps and imagery that would become the blueprint for the coming strike. The information flowed from Caracas to Langley, from listening posts to satellite uplinks, all funneling into a single audacious plan. Every piece of data, from a whispered phone call to a satellite image of a rooftop, was a brushstroke in the portrait of a leader about to be deposed. This deep surveillance was the bedrock of Operation Absolute Resolve. It was an intelligence operation of staggering scale and complexity, aimed at ensuring that when the time came, there would be no surprises. The goal was to know Maduro better than his own security detail knew him, to anticipate his every reaction, and to dismantle his defenses before he even realized he was under attack. The watchers in the shadows were patient, professional, and thorough. They knew that the success of one of the most daring military operations in recent history depended entirely on the quality of their work, and they left absolutely nothing to chance. With a mountain of intelligence gathered, the focus of the operation shifted from watching to preparing. The mission to capture a sitting head of state was fraught with immense risk, and failure was not an option. To mitigate this, the US military embarked on one of the most meticulous training exercises ever conceived. In a secret location, elite American troops, including members of the famed Delta Force, began to rehearse. They were not just practicing general tactics, they were drilling for a very specific night. The centerpiece of their preparation was a full-size, exact replica of Maduro's primary safe house in Caracas, a structure described by insiders as a veritable fortress. Every detail of the real location was painstakingly recreated, from the thickness of the walls to the layout of the rooms and the precise location of every door and window. The soldiers memorized the floor plan, running drills over and over until they could navigate the building in complete darkness. They practiced breaching the reinforced steel doors, timing their movements down to the second. They simulated various scenarios: what to do if they encountered heavy resistance, how to handle non-combatants, and most importantly, how to corner and capture their high-value target. This was not just a rehearsal, it was muscle memory being forged for the chaos of real combat. The planning was finalized in early December 2025, a culmination of months of effort from the Pentagon, the CIA, and the White House. The strategic and tactical elements were scrutinized from every angle. Military planners determined the optimal routes for aircraft, the best landing zones for helicopters, and the precise sequence of strikes needed to cripple Maduro's ability to respond. The operation would involve a massive deployment of force, including an aircraft carrier, dozens of warships, and over 150 aircraft that had been quietly massing in the region for months. The military buildup was a clear signal, but its ultimate purpose was a closely guarded secret. The rehearsals were about more than just the ground assault. Pilots practiced flying the specific flight paths they would take over Caracas. Special operations teams drilled the extraction procedures, ensuring that once Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were in custody, they could be moved out of Venezuelan airspace with speed and security. The entire mission was choreographed like a deadly ballet, with each unit knowing its part intimately. The replica safe house stood as a silent testament to America's resolve, a place where the battle was fought and won 100 times before the first shot was ever fired. As the new year dawned, the pieces were all in place. Thousands of U.S. troops were stationed strategically in the region, a formidable force poised on the edge of Venezuelan territory. The intelligence was confirmed, the rehearsals were complete, and the operators were ready. All that was missing was the final command. The initial plan had been to launch the operation 4 days earlier, but Mother Nature had intervened. Unfavorable weather and heavy cloud cover threatened to compromise the element of surprise, a critical component of the mission. The Pentagon advised a delay, and the White House agreed. The forces stood down, waiting for the perfect window of opportunity. That window opened on the night of Friday, January 2nd, 2026. The skies over Caracas were forecast to be clear. At his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, far from the traditional confines of the White House Situation Room, President Donald Trump monitored the situation. He was flanked by his inner circle, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. They watched the final intelligence feeds, the real-time weather reports, and the readiness status of the troops. The tension was palpable. At 22:46 Eastern Standard Time, just before midnight in Caracas, President Trump gave the final decisive order: go. The decision was made in absolute secrecy. The U.S. Congress was kept completely in the dark, a move the administration would later defend by citing the extreme risk of leaks. Secretary Rubio only began notifying key lawmakers as the first units were already moving into position. The order unleashed a complex and perfectly synchronized military machine. The first move was not with a bomb or a bullet, but with a flicker. Across Caracas, the lights went out. The U.S. had, in President Trump's words, used a certain expertise to plunge the city into darkness, a feat attributed to the sophisticated capabilities of U.S. Cyber Command. This deliberate power outage was the first act of the assault, designed to sow confusion and cripple command and control. With the city blind and disoriented, the sky above began to roar. Over 150 American aircraft, including stealth bombers and fighter jets, streaked across Venezuelan airspace. A series of large explosions rocked the capital as precision strikes targeted key military installations. Air defense systems were obliterated. The Generalissimo Francisco de Miranda Air Base was hit. Port La Guaira was targeted. The operation, codenamed Absolute Resolve, had begun in earnest. The green light had been given, and the full might of the U.S. military was now descending upon Caracas. At 2:01 local time, under the cover of darkness and chaos, the ground assault began. Helicopters carrying elite Delta Force operators swarmed toward Maduro's fortified safe house. As they approached, they were met with gunfire from Maduro's security detail, which reportedly included loyal Cuban bodyguards. One of the American helicopters was hit, but, through the skill of its pilot, remained operational. The troops, armed with heavy weapons and a blowtorch for the reinforced doors, landed and immediately began their assault on the fortress. The dress rehearsals were over. This was the reality. Inside, the explosions and the sudden blackout had triggered panic. Nicolas Maduro, alerted to the attack, made a desperate dash for a hidden safe room. But the American intelligence had been flawless, and the operators were faster. Before he could reach the reinforced door and seal himself inside, the first team of soldiers breached the compound. As President Trump would later describe it, Maduro was bum-rushed by the commandos. There was no prolonged siege, no dramatic last stand. The speed and overwhelming force of the assault caught his guards completely by surprise, and their resistance crumbled quickly. The operators secured Maduro and then moved to locate his wife, Celia Flores, who was also found inside the residence. Both were taken into custody without further incident. While the primary objective was complete, the broader operation was still in full swing across the city to ensure the extraction could proceed without interference. The Venezuelan defense minister, Vladimir Padrino, would later claim that a large part of Maduro's security team and other soldiers were killed in the raid, a grim testament to the intensity of the fighting. By 4:20 local time, the helicopters carrying Maduro and Flores were lifting off, leaving Venezuelan territory behind. The world awoke on Saturday to the stunning news. An hour after the extraction, President Trump announced the success of the mission, declaring that Maduro and Flores were in the custody of the U.S. Department of Justice and would face the full might of American justice in New York. The reaction was swift and divided. Allies like Senate Intelligence Chairman Tom Cotton praised the bold action, while top Democrat Chuck Schumer called it reckless. Internationally, condemnation poured in from leaders like Brazil's President Lula da Silva, who warned it set an extremely dangerous precedent. The United States, however, remained defiant, stating that a dictator accused of narco-terrorism would finally be held to account.